Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 438 of the Juicebox Podcast. On today's show, we're going to hear an adult father who has type 1 diabetes himself look back on his younger self, his diagnosis, and how he got to where he is right now. Hey, everyone. Today, we're going to talk to Galen. Galen is an adult who has type 1 diabetes, was diagnosed as a teen, and things didn't go great in the beginning, but they're going better now. And this is a very retrospective look back on that time. Please remember while you're listening that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Please always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. You may have heard about those diabetes pro tip episodes that I have and defining diabetes episodes. If you're looking for them and it's hard to find them in a podcast player sometimes, you can check out diabetesprotip.com. That's my website where they're all sort of collected together and you can get a good feeling for where they're at. Now, if you want to go back in your app after that and listen, once you know what episode number you're looking for, it's cool. That'll definitely work. And those defining diabetes episodes, I love them. They're shorter episodes that give you a good, firm grasp of all the terminology that's used around diabetes. I hear very often from people who are newly diagnosed that it all just sounds like a foreign language to them. So those defining diabetes episodes are me and Jenny Smith talking through specific ideas, giving some examples, and getting you out of there. So it doesn't take too long for you to grasp all the new words that exist in your life. Before we start, I just want to let you know that this episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Contour Next One blood glucose meter. You can find out more about Arden's meter at contournext.com/juicebox. I'd also like it if you'd check out the T1D Exchange at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. Last but not least, this show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
I'm Galen Hensler. I am 32 years old. I've been type 1 diabetic for 15, almost 16 years now. So October 27th will be the day that I have had diabetes longer than I have not. I live in Boise, Idaho with my wife and 2 little kiddos.
That's interesting because your name makes it feel like you're from Sweden or something like that.
Yeah. I was born in Berkeley, so I think that kind of explains the weird name.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell me about your hippie parents, or is that enough?
I think that covers it.
That's low. Are they still with us?
Yeah. So my mom is actually a social work professor in Montana. So she teaches at the University of Montana. And then my dad is retired and living in Oregon.
I just figured they were both protesting in the streets somewhere right now.
Not, I think my mom would be, but yeah, she's busy teaching.
Yeah, that's excellent. How did you end up in Iowa?
Or Idaho.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Boise.
That was reductive. No,
you're fine.
I know they're not both the same place. I just heard an I and, go ahead. I'm sorry. Idaho.
No. So my wife and I actually moved out here about 3 years ago for the job. Or I guess my previous job here. So we were in Missoula, Montana. I'd been there for about 10 years doing undergrad and then graduate school. And then we both graduated. I guess I graduated and looked for a job, and Boise, Idaho was kind of where we ended up.
And at what function of getting us our baking potatoes are you involved in?
I am involved in the marketing of the potatoes.
Are you seriously?
No.
Oh, no. Damn it.
No. I do work in marketing, but not on potatoes.
Not for potatoes. Potato chips. Yeah. It's something. No, I listen. What else is going on in Idaho? But school me a little bit.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I would say that. So I grew up in Salt Lake City before I moved to Montana. Mm-hmm. And it's close enough to Salt Lake City where I can go and visit friends and family that are still there.
Nice.
But not so close that it's every weekend.
Not so close that they can come visit you without saying.
100%. And it's like in the middle of nowhere. So like nobody's just going to like pass through Boise. So
I have a dream, Galen, seriously, of living in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if maybe a lot of people have that feeling of like, I want to get away from everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I didn't have children that I was trying to stay central to as they became adults, you know, or maybe I'll get lucky and they'll just turn out to be, you know, jackasses and I won't want to be near them very much. Like that, that would be that would be beautiful, because then I would totally try to mimic Harrison Ford's life. You know, try to find some property that's 1.5 miles from the mailbox, that kind of a thing.
Yep.
That seems really quiet to me. I worry about wild animals. Do you own a gun? Do you have to shoot things ever that come at your house?
No, you know, so we're actually in the city in Boise, so it's not horrible. I will say in Montana, my parents lived in Stevensville, which is like 30 minutes outside of Montana or Missoula, on I think a few acres of land, kind of in the middle of nowhere. So we did get like wild animals rolling around. So I was never worried about it, but there was one day where I came outside and there were a bear and a few cubs up in the tree. And that did give me a bit of a reason to leave Montana.
I would have put myself in a box and FedExed myself out of there immediately.
100%.
Like, I have to go. I didn't realize there was a bear here. Why didn't someone tell me? And that would be the end of it. I'm sure it's not like that. I only have one experience with a bear. We were in a cabin situation out in California at Yosemite, and we were walking across from, I don't know, like a centralized eating area back to the cabin, and there was just a bear walking through. And I recognized that the people who worked there did not seem to care, and they weren't even aware of it. It was you know, it was like a squirrel was walking through. I felt like, you know,
it's odd. Yeah.
And I'm like packing my children and my wife into a room. I'm like, no one moves. We stay here till the end. We'll make a run for it to the car and get out of here.
Yeah, seriously. Nope.
Anyway. Okay. So you've had type 1 for about half your life. Tell me about when you were diagnosed.
So yeah, when I was diagnosed, I was just turned 16. For like a few months before, I was just like drinking a ton, going up or like getting up in the middle of the night to pee, just like all the classic symptoms.
Right.
I have a stepbrother who's 11 days younger than me, so we're super close, and he would always give me a hard time because I couldn't like see the TV. So like we'd be watching TV and I couldn't read like the score of the football game. So all of the classic symptoms.
Yeah.
I was playing football at the time, and I still credit that to basically saving my life, or at least making sure I didn't, I was diagnosed and my blood sugar was 990. And I credit kind of football every day with keeping that below 1,000.
Is it just, do you think the activity was holding it back as much as it could be? Because you were running towards DK. I'm assuming they told you were in DK. What was the final thing that happened? Couldn't lift your hands, fell over. What?
So I was actually on a road trip with my mom, and we were driving, and I couldn't read the road signs as we passed them. So we came home, and she started doing some research, and I remember one day she picked me up from school, and I got in the car and we drove to basically like urgent care, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they tested my blood sugar on just like one of their meters there, and it was air or high. I think it said high.
Did you actually tell her, Mom, I can't read the street signs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And she was like we road tripped a lot when I was growing up. So like we were like really good with like, we're getting in the car and we're driving to where we're going, even if it's like 12 hours away, and we're not stopping.
How many feminism rallies have you been to? I'm just kidding. I don't.
Quite a few.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't have any problem with it. I just thinking maybe little Galen's been in a couple of seas of people holding signs once or twice in his life.
You know, it was actually dog shows, which isn't that far off from feminism rallies, but yeah, like all over. But for the trips, this last trip, I just remember we'd stop like every hour so I could pee. So we got home. I think my mom did some research. I got into the car, and she later told me that she was like, your breath smelt like fruit. Like you smelt so sweet. So I remember we went to urgent care. Blood sugar was off the charts there, and they're like, you need to go to the ER. My mom was actually working at the Children's Hospital in Salt Lake. So we went there. And it was like a few days before Halloween. And I just remember the one thing I'll never forget is the nurse came in and was like, eat whatever you want. This is the last time you're going to be able to eat without taking insulin. So, I was in the hospital for a couple days and got trained. And
a lot of people get the last meal from medical staff. It's weird. Yeah. Would you like
it's a horrible
sugar?
Last meal too.
Yeah. Hi, anything at all you want from the hospital cafeteria.
Exactly.
Last free meal of your lifetime.
Yep.
Did you want the Jell-O? It's not good. How do they screw the Jell-O up, by the way? That's fascinating. But anyway.
It probably sits there for a couple weeks. Yeah, no, it's bad.
What's it like being 16 and suddenly having everything about your life change?
It was hard. So I definitely went through a period of I'm not diabetic. So for like 6 months when I was like regularly seeing my endocrinologist, I was like really good. And then probably around 17 and a half, like senior year of high school, I just kind of denied it. But for that first, I would say there's a lot. As crappy as diabetes is, I was lucky. Like I said, my mom worked at the hospital. She's a social worker. My stepdad's a social worker. I had a teacher who I was taking a class from that was type 1 diabetic. Like my endocrinologist was my best friend's uncle. Mm-hmm. So like these weird connections, it made my life easier.
So a fair amount of support around you, but yet at some point you just deny having diabetes. I wonder what that looks like. What does it look like to just say, this is not happening to me? Do you stop taking care of it? Or
it's like stop testing, stop giving insulin. At the time I was on multiple daily injections, and it was I would say I would like take Lantus maybe, but not bolusing for food. Blood sugars are running, probably in the high 200s, low 300s. And this went on for probably at least a couple months. Mm-hmm. Just not, I want to be a senior in high school. I don't want to be different.
Just let it go. You just let it go to do other things. Who catches that and turns it back for you? Is it yourself or people around you? How does that happen then?
It was me and probably my mom. Like my mom, like I said, was a social worker. She worked at the Children's Hospital. She's been involved in, just supporting people going through tough times for her career. So
it's not hidden. She's aware of your ambivalence at that point.
It took a while. I would say that.
Okay.
Like she was not. I was 16, so I was obviously giving myself shots. I'm checking blood sugar myself, like all of that. But I think eventually it's like when your blood sugar is running at 250 for 2 weeks, like you're not functioning at 100%. Mm. And I get really pissy when my blood sugar's high.
Yeah.
So I think she caught on, after a while. And then when it didn't get better, she stepped in.
It's very interesting. I mean, I know you have children who are younger, but I was just speaking about this with a friend of mine the other day, actually, Adam Nadelman, who's been on the show before. And I said, it's this, I was talking about my son. It's like, he's a good kid. And so I don't want to be up his ass all the time, and at the same time, you're trying to stay involved, so that you kind of know what's going on, but you don't feel like you're being pushy, and he doesn't feel like he needs it. But at the same time, I'm sure there's a ton about him that I don't know. And, so you're just trying to stay, you are interested. I mean, for me, I'm interested, right? Like, and I want to be involved. I don't want him to feel like I'm pushing him or that he doesn't have a little room to figure things out on his own. And that's great in a normal scenario, but not if your blood sugar is 250 all the time. Like, like, then you need somebody to go, hey, Galen, I was wondering, could you stop being an idiot and, start listening?
Yep.
But you're not being an idiot, really. You're trying to give yourself space to do the other things that didn't feel possible to do diabetes and live at the same time.
It was just, like I said, I had a stepbrother that's the same age, and we, would go out, and it's like, I want to be able to go like eat dinner with friends and not have to worry about running and checking my blood sugar or running to the bathroom and shooting up. So like, it's easier just to sit there and have dinner and hang out and ignore it.
So it was for you, was it the actual process of having to test, having to inject, or did you not want anybody to see, or did you not care about that part?
So I didn't really care about that part. Like, from as long as I remember, I've never had a problem of like whipping out my needles and shooting myself in the arm. It's more of just taking a step back. I remember when I was diagnosed, they said it was a 60-second disease a day. So like every day you're dealing with it for like 60 seconds. And I remember it became clear pretty quick that it's like, there's no way this is 60 seconds. It's like, I was trying to think this morning. It's like, I'm thinking about diabetes like every moment of the day. It's just checking in on how I feel, checking my blood sugar. Am I going to eat in a couple minutes? Am I drinking coffee? Like, what's happening in my body? And that, I think I just got burnt out really quick of, I don't want to have to think about what my blood sugar is doing. I don't want to have to think about giving insulin. I don't want to have to count carbs. I don't want to have to worry about if I exercise, if my blood sugar is going low. Like, I just want to get back to normal life.
Was there any feeling that you got lied to when they said it was a 60-second disease? Was there, like, when that was told to you, you were like, oh, that's not bad. Like, I'll just do this thing and then I'll be okay. And then you realize that's not the case. Do you feel like there was a bait and switch, or do you remember?
I don't really feel like there is a bait and switch. I just feel like it's, I think it's something that just doctors would tell people to make it less intimidating early on.
Yeah, I always think they don't want you to drive off a bridge on the way home. So they're like,
exactly.
It won't be bad. They'll probably cure it soon even. You'll be fine.
Within 5 years, you'll be cured.
Don't worry about it. Just look, inject it into the banana. See how easy that was? That's what you'll do.
I remember I had an orange.
Did you get an orange?
I remember injecting into an orange. But yeah, it's like they make it seem like it's not a huge deal. Checking your blood sugar takes 5 seconds. Giving insulin takes 30 seconds to drop the insulin and shoot yourself in the arm. Yeah. But there's so much more to it than that I think people, even without diabetes, don't get. So doctors that are trying to explain this to people just don't really understand unless you've been through it.
So did you, for the lack of a better term, did you pull it together before college, or did this persist into college?
No, I was lucky. I kind of got my poop in a group before I went off to college. And I kind of bounced around between graduating high school, doing a semester in college in Logan, Utah, and then went back to Salt Lake, worked full time for a bit. And then when my parents went to Montana, I followed them up there and started school up there.
You know what I'm doing right now while you're talking, right? I'm writing down poop in a group as a possible title for the episode.
Great.
If at the end of this story you come out victorious, this one's going to be called Getting Your Poop in a Group. And it's your fault, just so you know.
I'll own it.
I've never heard anyone say that before. And my brain went, poop in a group. Oh my God, he means together. This is fantastic. And then I grabbed for my pen. So thank you so much. You guys are all your worst enemies, just so you know, when you're recording the podcast.
True.
Yeah. But that's fantastic. Is that a colloquialism that's local to you?
No, it's me trying not to swear so my daughter doesn't hear me and repeat it.
She's going to curse. Don't worry about it. You can't.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Arden just asked me about coronavirus the other day, and she goes, when the F are we getting out of this house? I was like, has it gotten to that point yet? She's like, I really need to get out of here. And I was like, all right, well, I said, sweetie, I'm not sure what's about to happen. I said, but we'll know. I think it's mid-July, or not quite mid-July right now. And there's as much of me that thinks that this is about to get worse, so.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, oh, geez, why don't we wait a little while longer? Find another corner of the house to stare at. You're going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
How old are your kids?
I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
That's kind of better, at least. I mean, maybe not for you and your wife as much as them, but at least they're not like, oh, we never get out of here.
Yeah. And we're lucky. We live right behind a school, and obviously the school's out, so we can go over there and walk around and play in the field and
nice.
Get out of the house. But yeah, it's been a long lockdown.
Yeah, no kidding. And you can't walk through a potato field because it's all lumpy. So
yeah,
you got to go find somewhere else, really.
Yeah.
You don't want to make mashed potatoes.
And it's Idaho, so it's leaving the state really to find a field that's not growing potatoes.
I don't imagine that it's not just border to border, just potatoes everywhere. I don't know. Does Bruce Willis live there? Or is he Iowa?
No.
Damn it. I'll figure that out while you answer your next question. All right, so you're in college. You've got your stuff together. It's going pretty well, but I'm looking at your note here a little bit. Do you develop an eating disorder in college, or what happened?
Yeah, so that was I would say right when I moved to Montana. I kind of got burned out again. This was probably less severe, but similar of like cutting down on insulin, and I just started basically running a lot.
Okay.
So I was down to like 140. So I lost probably like 40 or 50 pounds.
Wow.
Of just giving less insulin. And this was like, I wouldn't say in high school when I got burned out, it was like basically no insulin. When I moved to Montana, it was more of, I'm just going to run a lot and give insulin and try and keep my blood sugar. If I'm hitting 250, that's fine. I just wanted to stay below 250. So, it just wasn't a healthy time.
Gvoke HypoPen has no visible needle and is the first pre-mixed auto-injector of glucagon for very low blood sugar in adults and kids with diabetes, ages 2 and above. Not only is Gvoke HypoPen simple to administer, but it's simple to learn more about. All you have to do is go to gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used in patients with insulinoma or pheochromocytoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk. How often do you think to yourself, my A1C doesn't match what I'm getting with my blood glucose meter? Like, the meters tell me one thing, but then I get my A1C done 3 months later and things aren't jiving. Or maybe you have a continuous glucose monitor and it says one thing and the meter says another thing, and that just leaves you confused. I remember this happening with my daughter, and it was not fun. Just these two different numbers, and they left you feeling unsettled. But since Arden has moved to the Contour Next One blood glucose meter, I don't live through that any longer. And Arden's A1Cs very closely match our expectations. My point is that technology gets better, and you should keep up, especially when it comes to your blood glucose meter, because you make so many important decisions based on that number. Head over to contournext.com/juicebox, and you can learn all about the Contour Next One blood glucose meter. For instance, it uses test strips that offer second chance testing, meaning you could touch the blood, not get enough, go back and get some more, and still get an accurate test without wasting the strip. It's possible that you could be eligible for a free meter. It's possible that you could buy the meter in cash and it be cheaper than you buying it or another meter through your insurance. There's so much to find out, and all of the information you need is at contournext.com/juicebox. There's links in the show notes for Contour, for Gvoke, and for the T1D Exchange, because I'm going to ask you to head over there as well. T1dexchange.org/juicebox. If you're a caregiver or a type 1 who lives in the United States, you can add very simple data to what the T1D exchange is doing. They ask you these super simple questions about life with diabetes. They're not long answers. I think it must have taken me about 7 minutes to do the entire thing. I did it right from my phone. You could do it from your computer. It's easy. And this information helps the T1D exchange to move things forward for people living with type 1. I give you all the examples all the time, but they're there. Read about them at t1dexchange.org/juicebox. You could very easily make life for other type 1s and yourself much better and support the podcast. All right, let's get back to the show. So you were purposefully manipulating the insulin to lose weight?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had a weight issue?
Yes. Yeah.
Were you like 190? What are you, 5'5"?
I am 6 foot.
How are you at 190? That seems like a good weight for me. No?
It probably was.
Right.
But it was more of, just it was a weird period, I would say. Moving to Montana, not really knowing anybody, not really knowing what to do with myself. This was early in my college days.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just
kind of get in your own head, do you think? Or
yeah, definitely.
That's interesting. That really is interesting because, obviously any kind of eating disorder is not, I don't think, you couldn't call it sensible. Like you're like, oh, I'm at the perfect weight, but I'm just going to lose weight, so, I mean, obviously that's that aside. It's just interesting to hear that you were at what I would consider, a reasonable weight for your height and especially at your age. Were you just trying to make yourself inhospitable to bear attack? Perhaps you're like, maybe if I get small enough, these things will think not worth the effort.
Leave me not alone. Worth it.
Yeah.
If I just practice running, I can get faster than them. Just outrun the bears.
So are you aware of it while it's happening? Are you like, I'm manipulating my insulin. This is not healthy.
Oh, hold on. I think I lost you.
Hello. You say goodbye. Can I say hello? Hello?
Scott, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, no.
Oh, hold on a second. This is weird. I am going to...
Can you hear me? What? All right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you the whole time. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Well, what'd you do?
I think my speaker or my AirPods died.
Oh, jeez.
Bummer.
Yeah. I mean, when you can't count on $240 small pieces of plastic, what do you have?
Seriously.
Really?
Ugh.
I can't believe you didn't charge your AirPods for this.
I did,
but
I had a work meeting before.
It hurts my feelings, just so you know.
I'm so sorry.
No, get yourself situated and we'll go back.
Okay. I think I have some other speakers. Let's see. This whole work from home thing is...
Yeah. My dining room looks like what I imagine Kelly's office looks like, and it's not pleasant.
My wife is in graduate school right now. So we turned our walk-in closet in our apartment into our office. And it is just hot mess.
Honey, get in the closet. This is where it's going to happen.
Seriously.
Just so you know.
Every day, just come out of the closet.
It'll be an awakening for you every day at the end of the work. You'll be like, I'm free again. By the way, Bruce Willis just recently sold his $5.5 million Idaho ranch. It is beautiful.
Jeez.
I knew he lived in Idaho. See, because I think Dummy lives there still. And that's not, again, I'm not being mean. I believe that's how she wants her name pronounced. Any of you who lived through the 80s and 90s will hear that joke, and no one else will understand that there was a time where Demi Moore ran around telling people her name was Demi. So I'm the only one that apparently is going to remember that. But for you old people out there, enjoy your giggle while Galen gets his headset together. And I figure out if Demi Moore lives in Idaho, because I'm telling you she does. Oh, she does. Are you rich, Galen? Because Idaho houses seem very expensive.
I wish.
Oh my gosh. As a matter of fact, but yeah, I can. By the way, as a matter of fact, during the beginning of COVID, Bruce went to live with Demi and her family, and I think she's... Wait, what is this? Oh, and he got split from his current family to stay with Demi. It's the scary accident behind Demi Moore and Bruce Willis's COVID-19 quarantine. I'm not going to read that, but apparently Bruce Willis got quarantined with his ex-wife instead of his actual wife. There's photos of them here in matching pajamas, and that's comfortable. Okay. Honey, I'll be home as soon as Corona's over. I'm just hanging out with Demi. Seriously, I wish this is the first time I found myself wishing I could take a phone call to see if somebody goes, I remember when she wanted to be called Dummy. It was hilarious. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you're good?
I'm good.
All right. So that was a nice interlude. I'm leaving all that in, by the way.
Okay.
While you couldn't hear me, I was singing. It was terrific. So when you're consciously doing that, and so you have the sort of intellectual emotional ability to say, I'm doing something that's not healthy for me to get this result.
Yep.
I mean, that's a weird headspace to be in. Is there any way you can explain how that feels?
I think it's thinking long term versus thinking short term. So having your blood sugar run at 250 isn't going to kill you tomorrow. And I knew that. And it was me thinking, okay, I want to lose some weight. I want to, just kind of deal with a little bit of burnout right now and not think about it as much. So let my blood sugar run high a little bit.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's going to take, I won't see the effects of this, or the major effects. Obviously there are some short-term effects, but I'm not going to see the effects of it for a while. So it's okay to let it happen for a bit.
So did you see it, looking back, did you see it as a psychological issue? Like, was your appearance was so important to you, or that the idea that this needed to happen, or you were just...
No, I don't think it was ever like worrying about my appearance as much, because really I was like, I had just moved to Montana. I was living basically in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Didn't really see anybody except my family. And then, friends in Salt Lake who play video games and chat. It was just more of, again, just, the burnout of not wanting to deal with it as much. And,
but I guess,
having other,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I guess the real fear ends up being that you could get stuck in that forever. And that burnout, because then what the high blood sugars do to your ability to think about things, you could just get stuck there. Like, like any bad sci-fi movie where somebody takes you to a place where you just have to realize you're there to get away from it. And instead you just give over to, the good, the quote unquote good parts of what you're seeing. And you're like, I keep my weight down. It's fine. And you can keep saying these are long-term, like I can stop it whenever I want. But I guess the real problem is that a lot of people can't stop it because they're being pushed more through the psychological impact of being concerned about how they feel, or they have some actual, issue
totally
where they feel like they don't look the way they want to, quote unquote, but even if that's not true, and if they're the only ones seeing it, which I guess makes it true for them. It's interesting. I didn't really feel like we'd be talking about this. So I'm still wrapping my head around it a little bit, but I'm thinking now, this is going to sound terrible, but I knew a kid in high school who was really heavy, and he tried and couldn't do anything about it. And, he eventually, it was, keeping in mind, it was the end of the 80s. He decided that cocaine was the way to lose weight. And it worked. He was real skinny by the time he was done, but his life for the next 15 years was a disaster. Yeah. And thinking of that group of people now, and there's no way any of them are going to listen to this podcast, so I feel like I'm good here. They're all a different mess in some way or another, and one of them's dead.
Yeah.
And had a terrible heart attack when, in early 40s, mid 40s. And if I could describe that, his life was exactly how you might imagine somebody who's, recreationally and consistently using cocaine through their 20s and 30s, and pulls himself together in his late 30s, goes to school, becomes an attorney, is practicing, meets a woman, has a baby, and drops dead.
Jeez.
And so I wonder if when he was 20, if somebody would have said to him, hey, listen, man, when you're 43, you're going to die with a newborn. Like, you're going to go through all this. And I wonder how that would have impacted his first decision. And I don't, obviously yours didn't go on how long did you do this for?
Probably, I would say I got insulin and eating under control within 6 months.
Okay. Yeah, so you're not going to likely have any long-term complications from it. But what if you would have got stuck in it? And many people do, right? So, okay. So you get that, you put that poop back to a group, and your poop gets scattered a lot.
It does. Yeah.
Hey, you just got to run around and just push it all back together again and head off again. That's let's find out where else you get scattered. Let's keep moving forward. When do you meet that lovely girl who you jammed into a closet?
So she was actually a student of my mom's, at the university. So she was a social work major. My mom's teaching social work at the time. And we ran into each other a lot, just around basically my mom's office / the social work department. And we were, chat and friendly. And that went on for 2 years. And then, a couple weeks before we both graduated, actually sent her a friend request on Facebook and said we should hang out. And literally the next day we got coffee, and I think we hung out every day for the next couple months.
Wow.
And then proposed 6 months later and got married a couple months after that, and been together for 5 years now, married for over 5 years.
Wow. When do you propose? When you realize you can't believe she's still with you?
Yeah. 5%. Yep.
It's wow, this girl's not figuring it out.
Gotta lock it down.
Yeah. Why does she not look at me and go, what am I doing here? She's going to figure it out eventually. I got to do something.
I thought she would, but.
Well, she's the kind of girl who will accept a closet as an office. So she's amenable to all kinds of things, She
is. Yep. No, she's great.
It's funny. That's great. Good for you. I don't want to jump around too much, but have you gotten an answer? I'm looking at your notes still. Your daughter had which daughter? The 3-year-old.
So, my 3-year-old. So this is kind of the ongoing story of our life. In January 2019, so last January, I was at work one day and got a call from my wife during a meeting. Thought it was weird, but I just ignored it. And then I texted her and she was like, no, something's wrong. Call me. From what I can tell, my daughter Berkeley had a hypoglycemic seizure. And my wife was there. She called 911, and then called me. I started driving home. Paramedics came. Paramedics did not check her blood sugar, which I find weird. Took her vitals and said she was fine and left. I got home probably about 20 minutes later. Berkeley ran to me when I came in the door, and she just looked off. And had I not been type 1, obviously I wouldn't have thought anything. We would have just taken her to the ER, but she looked like she was low. So I checked her blood sugar and it was 41.
Huh.
And we started giving her honey. Checked her blood sugar again, probably about 10 minutes later, and it was 37. So we called 911 again. Paramedics came. Long story short, we ended up in the ER. So my daughter basically was not able to like move the left side of her body. And we think probably part of the seizure. Did all the scans. We were in the ER for a couple hours, did a bunch of scans, ran a bunch of tests. Everything came back normal. Sent us to the Children's Hospital here. We were there for 2 nights, I think, 2 or 3 nights. Mm-hmm. And basically just ran a bunch of tests. Everything came back normal.
Has it happened again since then?
So when we left the hospital, they basically said, like, we don't know what's going on. So my wife and I, again, kind of luck of the draw that I'm type 1 diabetic. I know about, counting carbs and like different food groups and like what, like I'm more aware of food, I would say, than the normal person.
Yeah.
So we were checking Berkeley's blood sugar. I mean, we kept a little log and it was ridiculous. I think we checked her 30 times a day at least. I was waking up every 2 hours in the night to check her blood sugar. Because we didn't know what was going on.
Were you in a panic? She was just going to die? Is that,
100%.
Where that pressure comes from?
100%. Okay. And again, it's like when my wife calls me and says Berkeley's having a seizure, this had obviously never happened before.
Yeah.
So it came out of the blue, it hit like a ton of bricks. And we did everything we could to like make sure that didn't happen again. Yeah. Pretty quickly we realized that it seemed like dairy made her blood sugar go down. So we would, if she had yogurt or milk, her blood sugar would start to dip and we'd have to correct. So we basically have been avoiding dairy, milk.
Is that working?
It is.
Have you gotten any kind of an answer about why that may be?
Nope. And she's had genetic tests done. Literally every test has come back normal. So she's been checked for pre-markers for diabetes. Just everything seems to be normal that we've tested for.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredibly odd. I hope you find an answer to that and share it with me, by the way.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, me. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And I know a bit about like seeing stuff like that and just being perplexed by it.
Yeah.
I've mentioned on the show, I think before, but my body doesn't appear to hold on to ferritin. So like you give me a CBC and my blood tests all my values are perfect. I look fine. Like, except my ferritin is 13.
Interesting.
And hold on a second. I'm sorry. And then I go get an infusion and it goes back up again. And these symptoms that I have, which are really weird, like I think it's called paresthesia, but I get like a little electrical feeling on the right side of my skull. Like that's not painful or anything like that. I just get like, it feels like somebody like touches a 9-volt battery to my tongue, but on the side of my head for a split second. When I feel that, I start thinking, okay, my ferritin must be starting to go down. Then my muscle tone goes away. Like I've changed nothing else about my life, but however, and please don't get me wrong, I'm not lifting weights or anything like that, but my normal muscle tone begins to lessen. It gets a little jelly-ish. And then I start having weird reactions to things. And so what I would say to that is like, you might just say I'm overreacting. Like if you think of someone who's overreacting, but there's a fogginess that comes around it. And I just sort of, something happens. And as I'm responding to it, it's usually like a more tense thing. Right. Or I don't know, you'll say something to me and where I would not normally be flippant or dismissive, like I just sort of am. And then if it goes into a conversation, the words coming out of my mouth don't match how I feel or what I'm thinking. And it's not disassociated or anything like that.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? But it's just, I have a hard time not saying, I guess, the worst of all the options of what to say.
Sure.
Right. Get the ferritin, it all just goes away.
Interesting.
And so my son's home from school, gets his, his well visit, And, the girls have hypothyroidism and, with diabetes and everything. So I just say to the doctor, can I get a baseline on Cole when you do his blood tests? He's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. So, everything's fine. His thyroid level. I mean, you should see the kid. Like, seriously, looks like an underwear model. He can run forever. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing about his life that would make you think something's wrong with him.
Yeah.
Physically. And Adam called and we talked about it. Hold on one second. I cannot get my throat clear. It's probably Corona. Just stuck right there in the back. Sorry. If I end up with Corona, people are going to be like, he shouldn't have joked about that.
Seriously.
My joking is not going to stop me from getting sick. But so I hear back, Cole's blood tests are amazing. He's like, they're better than amazing. He's like, his CBC is absolutely, it's like everybody wants this CBC. His cholesterol, his thyroid levels are fine. Everything's good. His A1C was 5, blah, 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 blah. His ferritin's 20. It's incredibly low. And I'm like, oh my God, there's some genetic thing, but he doesn't have any symptoms of it. So I don't know. Like, it's just a strange thing when something like that happens to you that then doctors go, well, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it if it's not causing a problem.
Yeah.
That's a weird answer to get,
Yeah. No, it really is.
So is that the answer you got? Like, don't give her milk and go live your life? But how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, the answer that, so I mean, like, we've traveled, like, we've gone down to Salt Lake. We've seen a couple doctors up here. Everybody gives the same answer of like, everything looks good. Maybe she'll grow out of it.
Right.
And so it's been 18 months now. And still, she the other day had a not low, but in the 60s, and acting symptomatic. So like still happening, not outgrowing it. And it doesn't really give us as parents any peace of mind to be like,
no comfort with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like outgrow it when,
yeah.
And
that's not an answer.
No, it's like, what are we supposed to do when we send her to kindergarten? Like, just like, how do we deal with this throughout her life where it's always going to be like, maybe not, maybe today she'll outgrow it. Maybe not.
I wonder if her doctor couldn't prescribe a Dexcom Pro study for her.
And that's, so we actually have a appointment with her endo next week. And that's kind of what I'm trying to push for, is just give us a Dexcom for her.
Yeah.
So we can see, because again, it's like, she's 3 years old. She takes a nap during the day. Sometimes she'll wake up and like be low when she wakes up. And it's nice to know,
well, you might be able to find a pattern, more of a pattern too, and maybe finding the pattern would point to something. I do wish you luck. I'm sorry we got sidetracked on that, but that's really
no, you're fine.
It's super interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of the case of our family of everybody's trying to figure out what's going on with poor Burke.
Well, by the way, this poop in a group thing might get sent away because you're a bit of a hypocrite, because you mocked your mother in the beginning for being from Berkeley and calling you Galen, and then you named your baby Berkeley. So I mean,
it's true.
Galen's a hypocrite was now second on my list right
here. That's fine. Her name's actually Berkeley Rose, and there's a Berkeley Rose Garden. So that's lovely.
No, it's very nice. I'm just kidding. It's a wonderful.
No.
It's a lovely name. It really is.
It is, but it's definitely for Berkeley, the city that was born in and family grew up in. So,
how is the 1-year-old Saskatchewan? Is she okay? Things are good.
The 1-year-old is actually Lincoln, and
Nebraska.
Yeah, it not Nebraska. It just, honestly, I don't know. We just like the name Lincoln, so we ended up going with Lincoln.
I'm not breaking your balls over it. I think it's fine. Do you like call Link? Is that a
yeah?
That's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Plus, you're not matching anything with your last name, so it doesn't really matter. Hey, listen, this is the point in the podcast where I tell you I don't care, and it means nothing to me. But because of the podcast history, I'm remiss. You've mentioned Utah a number of times. Any chance you're Mormon?
No, okay. I was raised LDS, but I am not. I would say I am far removed from the church.
Ah, gotcha. But you were there at one point.
I was there at one point up until I was 18.
All right, I'm counting you on the tally, just so you know. And at some point, one day, I'm getting an answer. I really am. because this podcast is listened to everywhere, really everywhere. And I mean, I gotta be up to 10 by now, right? Like I'm getting close. Like I don't know. Something's going on.
That's weird.
I need a study of diabetes in Utah. That's what I need.
Seriously. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, with all this that's sort of happened to you and, currently with your daughter and previously with yourself, you mentioned that, when we were talking, through email, you mentioned that you really feel like attitude has a lot to do with diabetes. And I was wondering how that manifested for you and how you put it into practice.
Yeah. So, when I was when I first moved to Montana, I was kind of going through the struggle there. Once I started getting into school, I got a job, was kind of forced to start taking care of myself again to basically feel normal. So when your blood sugar's around 250, you're just not feeling great. Mm-hmm. And just kind of realizing that I feel so much better when my blood sugar is controlled. And being able to know that there's a benefit in taking care of yourself. And I think I mentioned this in the email, but I graduated with my undergrad and then moved into law school. I got engaged my first semester of law school, got married my second semester of law school, and then we had Berkeley my last year of law school. So law school is kind of a whirlwind, and I think that's where I kind of really buckled down on knowing that you have to put limits on everything. And what I mean by that is law school takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Mm-hmm. But I was also newly engaged, newly married, had a new kid. So I got in a very good habit of really looking at law school like a job. And, from 9 to 5, I was working at law school, and then I would come home and hang out with my wife. And, do that basically every day.
And you can't do those things when your blood sugar's high and you can't focus and all the other problems that comes
exactly.
with it.
Yep. You really have to change my mom's favorite saying is like change the channel. So you have to like change the channel of your mind of like diabetes sucks. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Mm-hmm. But there's no like denying it doesn't do anything to help you. Right. And I think that's kind of what I really came to. It's like I cannot take insulin and I can feel horrible, or I can just suck it up and be like, this is the hand I was dealt. It sucks. And again, I've said this a few times now, but like I'm lucky. Like I have never had gaps in my insurance. I've always been able to get insulin. Like I've never felt like I was rationing insulin. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I had a great support system. My wife has been amazingly supportive. Like as horrible as diabetes is, I'm a lucky one. And just kind of realizing that, it's the hand you're dealt, and you just got to do what you like the best you can.
So there's nothing to point to then. You can't say that you had an epiphany or you employed a certain thing. I think that's important for people to know. Like you recognized it and then you just consciously said, I have to change this.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, there's not a book to read or, a seminar to go to or something like that. You have to be an adult and look and say, the alternative is not good. There is going to be long-term consequences if I keep going like this, and short-term, I'm cheating myself out of the things I'm trying to do.
Totally.
Right. So,
and I think there's a power that comes from recognizing it yourself versus, like reading a book and changing your behavior because of a book. Mm-hmm. I think that's fleeting. I think it's, you can watch an inspirational talk and, want to change your life, but until you like internalize it, until it's like coming from you, it doesn't stick. And obviously, I've gone through ups and downs where I've taken better care of myself and not so great care of myself. But at the end of the day, it's like these little periods of burnout. They don't last long because I know, like, especially now having kids, it's like I have to take care of better care of myself. And then just knowing like you feel so much better when you're in control, and the time it takes to be in control is worth taking that time. So I'm not sitting there worrying about, what my blood sugar is doing.
Well, I think that you, by talking about it like this, I think that's as helpful as anything, because you're a person that did it. Like it's easy to say, oh, I read a book, this guy had all these ideas, or there's quotes or inspiration. That's bold. That's not somebody that did it. That's somebody who's saying it. Like you did it. And just because you can't exactly quantify how you did it doesn't mean that that's not inspirational. Sure. You know what I mean? Just the idea that it can be done, I think is really more important than anything else. And I have to tell you that while I don't have type 1, obviously, the idea of burnout seems reductive to me. Like it seems like an oversimplification of something. And I don't know what it is, but I keep hoping that through these conversations, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, I don't have to take insulin, right? I don't have that pressure, that stress in my life. But my life has not been particularly terrific along the way, at every step. And there's something about that persistence that I know I have that persistence. Like I don't give up. Yeah. And I don't know why that is. And I mean like emotionally, physically, if things don't look good, I am an internally hopeful person. Yeah. And I don't know why, but if that's not your case, if you're more pessimistic, and it's funny, I'm incredibly pessimistic about most things, but not the big things.
Sure.
It's strange. Like on a low level, like, I see something happen. I'm like, oh, this is going to go to hell. Like I don't see any way this is going to work out. But I think overall it can work out. Yeah. And so the moment might be bad, but I don't think that the journey is a failure.
Sure.
And I don't know how to tell you that either. Like, I don't know why I have felt like that most of my life, other than to say that, knowing you're adopted early on it's a little rough to hear like somebody had you and went, whatever. Totally. Like that's hard. But then you meet a family who cares about you and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's good. And then that family gets divorced and you're like, oh, well, that's bad. Yeah. And it's just, and then I didn't really have like stick-to-itiveness in school. So I had no prospects coming out of high school, and I took a job that was terrible. I worked in a sheet metal shop for like 6 years, and every day I was there, I was being paid nothing. I was killing myself physically, and it did not seem to be a pathway to anything except showing back up the next day and doing it again. And it was horrible because I felt like I wanted to write a book. I felt like I had all these ideas of things I wanted to do. I'd sit around with guys. They were all lovely. I want to say seriously that a lot of my life lessons came from those men that I worked with. They all had something about them, because you don't have a father. There's no way to know how to be, if that makes sense. So what I would do is I would look at the people around me and I would pick out what I thought were their best traits, and I'd pay attention to them. There was one gentleman who was just incredibly honest. And there was a guy there who worked really hard. And there was a guy there who had an incredible sense of humor like I did. And he wasn't afraid for people to see it. And, and like they all had these different kind of bits about them. So being there was an incredible part of my life, like to see all of that. And I would just sort of like, I used to joke that like being adopted is great because it's not even a joke, like because you get to decide who you are. No one really tells you who you are, Yeah. And so you get to look and you go, this guy over here, he's an earnest son of a bitch. I like how earnest he is.
Yep.
Maybe that's a good thing. Instead of watching your parents and just soaking up whatever it is they put out into the world,
Yep.
And so maybe that built into it. And that's a long way of saying that not everybody gets to have that experience. So when some other person has, my parents got divorced, they don't go, I bet you we can get through this. Some of them just go, well, that's the end. And then that it blankets them for a long time. So I don't know the difference between someone like you and someone who still has that, is living with that eating disorder that never breaks free of it, or who doesn't realize I can't do this with my blood sugar because I'm trying to have a family and I love these people and I want to be an attorney. By the way, how the hell did you go from being an attorney to marketing?
I got like halfway through law school and realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. But at that point, you can't drop out of law school when you're halfway through. So I just stuck it out and actually got an MBA while I was finishing law school and moved into marketing.
There you go. So you just never took the bar. Is that how that works?
Nope, never took the bar. But graduated law school, you're just
like, whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a good fallback option. Like in 5 years, if I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be a lawyer now.
Yeah.
I'm one step closer, I guess. But
I hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just told a story on the podcast recently of I had a counselor in school who was like, I think you'd be a great attorney. And I was like, oh, then I'd be an attorney.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I like my wife and I like my kids. I want to hang out with them. So
yeah, I just couldn't imagine doing it every day. Like I love the talking and the rationalizing and the arguing, but the writing wouldn't be for me. Like that would throw me off, I think.
Yeah. And, I want to actually touch on something that you were just saying, getting back to being able to like pick and choose. You were saying when people around you. And I think one thing that like helped me through law school is I'm very logical. I'm very black and white. I don't swing high or swing low usually. And so knowing that about myself and being able to look at having type 1 and dealing with this for 15 years, there's just been so many points in my life where I'm able to see like it sucks to have type 1, like I've said. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But I think when you get past that hump of like this sucks, and you can start looking when possible at points in your life where it's like, okay, it sucks to have type 1, but when I was diagnosed, I was in the children's hospital and there were kids, 1-2 years old that were having to get their fingers poked. And I know this now, having to do it to my daughter, but it's like they don't understand what's going on. They're just getting poked by their parents. Mm-hmm. But it's like I was old enough to at least know what was going on. Yeah. So even though it sucked, it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Your context was available at least.
Yeah. And going throughout my life and seeing that, it's giving me an outlook of, oh man, like I'm so lucky that I was raised in a house where I was able to have a support system, where I had insurance, where I had the financial ability to like pay for these things. Even now, it's like I'm lucky enough to have a great job, to be able to get supplies and everything to keep me healthy. It changes your outlook. So it's like as shitty as diabetes is, when you're able to take a step back and kind of change your channel and adjust your view, it for me at least, it's made me a lot more compassionate. It's given me a lot of just ability to see that like people aren't as lucky as I am, and what can we be doing to basically help those people that can't afford insulin or aren't able to get their insulin or can't afford their supplies.
Did other people's situations that were worse off than yours give you the feeling like you can't waste the opportunity that you have to do better with the tools you have? Did you have that conscious thought?
Not just with diabetes. I would say almost not necessarily with diabetes. It's just kind of, hippie parents, social work mother.
Yeah.
It's that it's been instilled in me for a long time.
Galen, there are starving kids somewhere, eat your beans.
Pretty much.
Right.
I mean, it's basically like you're given this opportunity. You were like, I wrote my law school like application essay. I'm basically like, I'm an upper middle class white male. Like I'm starting like a step away from the finish line. Mm-hmm. And it would be a disservice to me and everybody else if I didn't try and do as much as I can.
Right. Don't just half-ass your way through everything.
Exactly.
Be like, I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And diabetes, I would say, gives all of that an extra layer of like, people starting off, like there are still things that people deal with. So like, how can we just like, what can I be doing to help people along?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. Well, that's a good message, man. It really is. Wow. That was a lot. I didn't expect all that. Good for you. Nice. Well done. Thanks for having a great microphone too. Actually, your microphone's so great that at times when you're quiet, I feel like I can hear a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old trying to kill each other. Is that?
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah.
I feel like the 1-year-old was yelling, "Your blood sugar's low. Get away from me. Don't pass out on me. I see how this goes."
Yeah.
My gosh.
That's why I'm in the closet.
Are you in the closet office right now?
Yep. Yep.
Well, things have fallen apart, haven't they? Seriously, I don't know when we're going back to work. I'm starting to think like it's not going to happen this year. Just
I'm feeling the same way.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if this will come out months from now, and I'll listen and think, wow, I was right, or I hope I was wrong. But
yeah,
I just saw some things recently that made me feel like there's no way this is gonna go away right now. There's just people have gone back out, and there's just, I don't know, like if being distant and covering your face is truly important, then what I saw is troubling. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know. It's just it seems to me like I'm not as hopeful as I was maybe 4 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago I was like, this is turning. I can see it turning. And now I'm like, oh well, maybe not. I guess we all had to get back to 5 below. Very important.
Get cozy.
Yeah, we needed a squishy ball, and now everybody's gonna get sick again. Anyway, just anyway, fingers crossed, and hopefully I'll go back and listen to this and be like, I was really wrong, and our lives are all normal.
Couple weeks. No.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm again not hopeful. Thank you very much for doing this. Isn't it funny? I just did exactly what I said I was going to do. In the short term, I'm not hopeful. In the long term, I'm very hopeful. I'm like, this is a disaster, but it'll be okay eventually.
Eventually. Fingers crossed.
Would you hang out for a second? I just want to say goodbye to you like a real person.
Of course.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. Hey, really consider going to t1dexchange.org/juicebox and adding your voice. And of course, thanks so much to the Contour Next One blood glucose meter for being a longtime sponsor. Check them out at contournext.com/juicebox.